Chu Hao traveled through Hong Kong Island in the 1980s and immediately confided in his sister-in-law, but his elder brother came knocking on his door. Faced with a dead end of 3 cuts and 6 holes. Fortunately, the frog has returned from his journey. Bring comprehensive combat skills to level 10. Chu Hao decisively sent his elder brother and sister-in-law on the road to succeed as the leader of the Changle Gang. What is the future of being a triad? To be the king of the world. Cut off Diana, rob Li Ka-shing, transform and become the first Hong Kong-funded tycoon to enter the mainland. Harvest the wool of the bear, lease the Far East for 100 years, and establish your own military base. With the help of the financial crisis, harvest Wall Street, Eagle sauce has accumulated for 100 years, all of which will be collected. The Ansar Foundation and Jewish capital gritted their teeth in hatred, but had no way to deal with Chu Hao. Eagle sauce wants *** trouble. Space-based weapons, phantom ray rifles. Sky carrier battle skirt. Locked onto the White House. Destructive strikes can be carried out at any time. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1, It's not installed anymore. I'll have a showdown. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiangjiang, 1982, in an old Tang-style building at the moment, on the bed in the room, a man and a woman are cooking fried rice. The man has yellow hair and the woman has big waves, making it difficult to see her face clearly. At first glance, she looks very sophisticated. After an unknown amount of time, the man picked up a cigarette, and the woman beside him quickly approached the man and helped him light the cigarette. Chu Hao took a deep breath of the cigarette in his hand and then spat out cigarette rings one by one from his mouth. Looking at the coquettish woman in front of him, not only did he not have any fluctuation in his heart, but he even wanted to laugh. Unfortunately, now Chu Hao doesn't have much thought. Without him, the woman in front of him is his sister-in-law. Well, it's not a sister-in-law in the sense of family, but a woman who worships her elder brother. Damn it. Thinking of this, Chu Hao's whole body was numb. He had been singing songs with his sister in his arms, and his life was much more nourishing. However, as soon as his eyes closed, he unexpectedly traveled through time. It was like stepping on a horse to open the door for absurdity and reaching home for absurdity. Are the crossing indicators so casual now? Can even a bad guy like himself travel through time? What will happen to a woman who slept with her older brother? 3 knives and 6 holes. Cut it into meat paste. Thinking about the possible fate he might encounter, Chu Hao shuddered instantly. Seducing sister-in-law is already a taboo in the martial arts world, let alone crossing the Xiangjiang River in the 1980s. A society full of rules and regulations. If the news of seducing my sister-in-law is leaked, it will be difficult for me to survive. Thinking of this, Chu Hao looked at the big wave in his arms, and the killing intent gradually rose in his eyes. But in the blink of an eye, he sighed helplessly again, and the killing intent in his eyes slowly dissipated. Although he is not a good person, at least he has a bottom line. As soon as he lifted his pants, he turned around and killed someone, which is somewhat unreasonable. Feeling a bit conflicted in his heart, just then, a cold electronic synthesizer suddenly remembered in his mind. Your son, who is about to go on a long journey, has specially left you with level 10 comprehensive fighting for your safety. Do you accept it? The sudden sound made Chu Hao's eyes widen instantly. Wait, what is this thing? Son of a bitch. Travel frog. In an instant, Chu Hao smiled, with a very bright smile on his face. He is a frequent guest of Mr. Liu, not only familiar with various golden fingers, but also extremely familiar. Travel frog, a restless little frog, occasionally goes on trips and brings local specialties to his old father after each trip. For example, abilities, treasures, mysterious items, and so on. This kind of son, the reader master of Molu, should all want to raise one. Now, I have actually obtained it, and it's not in vain that I spent so much money on spicy food in Molu. Receive, quickly receive. With a proud smile in his heart, Chu Hao didn't delay and quickly whispered in his heart. As his voice fell, a mysterious force instantly surged into his body. At the same time, a large amount of fighting skills, combat experience, and so on, all merged into his mind, transforming into an instinctive existence. The feeling of mastering a peak skill in an instant made Chu Hao intoxicated. Suddenly a loud bang rang out, and the once tightly closed door was violently kicked open. Subsequently, a man with an angry face and several subordinates burst in and saw the scene of Chu Hao subduing demons and eliminating demons at a glance. Watching this scene, the man's eyes instantly turned red. Bastard, fuck me, I'll kill you. The man drank loudly and casually picked up the teapot from the table and smashed it at Chu Hao. Fortunately, Chu Hao's strength greatly increased after receiving level 10 comprehensive combat. He keenly dodged the teapot in mid-air, flipped over and dismounted, picked up his pants scattered on the ground, and put them on. The whole process was completed in one go. Big brother, listen to my sophistry, explain, listen to me explain. Chu Hao spoke while quickly brainstorming reasons in his mind. But before he could articulate his reasons, a cry came from the bed. Ah Hong, do you have to make decisions for me? Chu Hao is not a person. Woo woo. After Big Wave finished speaking, tears streamed down his face. Seeing this scene, Chu Hao was stunned. No, big sister, don't talk halfway. Don't you know that brain stimulation is the most deadly? Sure enough, looking at the appearance of the big waves with pear blossoms and rain, Chu Hao's boss and Fei Hong were heartbroken, and in an instant, he imagined the scene of his sister.in.law being too charming, and his younger brother forcing his sister.in.law. Now, not only was all the anger drained away by Chu Hao, but the big wave also captured the image of a suffering woman. Bastard, how dare you rape my horse? I won't chop you up and feed you to the fish today. What face do I have to live in the martial arts world, Fei Hong? Give it all to me, catch him, I'll personally break his 5 legs. Fei Hong shouted loudly, and as he finished speaking, the little brother behind him suddenly moved and quickly charged towards Chu Hao. Seeing this, Chu Hao sighed helplessly and said, I was supposed to get along with you as an ordinary person, but what I ended up with was distance. I don't pretend anymore. I'm a skilled fighter, I'll have a showdown. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. Who approves and who opposes? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom. With a loud bang, Chu Hao instantly flew up and knocked the person in front of him out with a knee bump. Then there was another long swing of the tail, knocking down the horses on both sides, and finally turning around to kick the last person away. Between the rise and fall of the rabbit and the fall of the sparrow, the 4 horses brought by Fei Hong were quickly knocked down by Chu Hao. Watching this scene, Fei Hong and De Bo were both stunned. Stretching his arms, Chu Hao looked at the stunned Fei Hong and his companions. He grinned and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. The fact that he became his sister.in.law has been exposed, and he doesn't want to be chased by the whole Jianghu in the future. Therefore, today in this room, only one person can walk out alive. You, don't come over. As he watched Chu Hao slowly approach, Fei Hong's tone became stuttering. At the same time, he quickly touched his waist and wandered around the world. There was always a bit of a life-saving guy, but he didn't expect Chu Hao to be so capable of fighting. He didn't have time to take out the life-saving guy. It's obviously too late to make another move at the moment, and Chu Hao is not a malicious villain. How could he be given a chance? Chu Hao stepped out with one step, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Fei Hong. Under his astonished and fearful gaze, he punched heavily and imprinted it on his cheek. Bang! A dull loud bang rang out, and Fei Hong was directly punched out, his head shattered by Chu Hao's punch. White fluids flowed out of the cracks, causing Chu Hao to feel nauseous. Damn it, I exerted too much force. With some disdain, Chu Hao shook his hand and turned his gaze to De Bo. As Chu Hao's gaze swept over, De Bo's whole body trembled in shock, and the blanket that was originally covering him slipped off, revealing a large expanse of white flowers. Darling, I was wrong. I shouldn't have falsely accused you. Please forgive me. De Bo frantically kowtowed and begged for mercy. The headlights on his chest flickered, causing Chu Hao to feel dizzy for a moment. However, he didn't hesitate to take action and hugged De Bo's head with both hands. He lowered his head and smiled, "Don't worry, I will do it quickly and won't hurt." Click. After speaking, Chu Hao exerted force on both hands and immediately twisted her neck. Casually throwing the warm waves onto the bed, Chu Hao's face showed a hint of regret. He didn't originally intend to kill her, but unfortunately she wanted to find death herself. Unfortunately, she has a natural talent all over her body, and I don't know when she will meet someone so big next time. Shaking his head, without further thought, Chu Hao quickly began searching the room. He has only just traveled through time, and his predecessor was a poor scoundrel. If it weren't for his sister-in-law's generosity, he wouldn't have been able to taste the meat. So, naturally, we cannot miss the opportunity to get rich right now. Quickly, Chu Hao searched the entire room and looked at the tens of thousands of cash that had been found. Chu Hao disdainfully glanced at his mouth and realized that he was really poor. Then, he stepped out of the old-fashioned Tang Tower. Going out, looking back at the room behind him, Chu Hao lit a cigarette and then threw the kerosene lighter into the bed inside the room. He closed the door with his back and left straight away. Not long after he left, thick smoke rose from the night sky and quickly transformed into a stunning flame. The scorching flames woke up the residents around them, shouting loudly in the darkness, "We're running out of water." In an instant, nearby residents began to spontaneously extinguish the fire to prevent it from spreading to their homes. Unfortunately, the fire was getting bigger and bigger. Apart from preventing it from spreading to the surrounding area, they could do nothing else and had to wait for the fire alarm to come before further action. After an hour, the fire alarm arrived leisurely and then opened the water hose to extinguish the fire. Quickly, the flames extinguished, and the surrounding residents had little damage. At most, the walls were blackened. The old Tang-style building, which could catch fire, was completely burned down and turned into a piece of white ground. As for the bodies inside, they were naturally burned to ashes. The surrounding residents watched this scene and stood on the side, discussing the reason for the fire. In the crowd, a young man who had been holding his hands while watching the play turned around and walked out after seeing that the place had been completely burned down. Wan Chai, Xian Mountain, Changle Bang Tang Ko. Today, several leaders from the Changle Gang gathered together. The reason is simple. Their boss, Fei Hong, has fallen, so they came specifically to compete for the position of the leader of the Changle Gang. In Xiangjiang, where clubs are everywhere, there are even 800 small and large characters. The Changle Gang can only be considered as a small and medium-sized organization, with a relatively small scale. The entire gang can only sustain 1,000 people. However, the Changle Gang has always been in control of a channel for smuggling cars, and the entire community is also seeking water through this. For the inexperienced ancient gangsters, this is already a huge benefit, and naturally it is a bloody battle. While several leaders were arguing incessantly, Chu Hao slowly walked in outside the hall entrance. Seeing this, the curious people around them greeted each other and said, "Brother Hao, Brother Hao." Chu Hao's position in Changle is not low, he is one of Fei Hong's top horses, otherwise he would not have had the opportunity to collude with his sister-in-law. As Chu Hao stepped into the hall, several leaders present frowned one after another. Subsequently, someone immediately patted the table and stood up. "Chu Hao, how dare you show up? My elder brother was burned to death last night, where are you?" "Grass, Big Eyes, what nonsense are you talking about? Big brother was burned to death, it's none of my business. It's not that I started the fire. As for where I am, I was looking for fun last night. Should I also tell you?" "Alright, Big Eyes, don't make a fuss. Big brother died in an accident, and it has nothing to do with Chu Hao. Chu Hao, come and sit with me. We happen to be discussing who should control Changle now. Can you also share your opinion?" In front of his big eyes, Scarface smiled and said, seemingly kind, but in reality, he harbored evil intentions. "Let Chu Hao give an opinion, which means that the position of the leader has nothing to do with you. Just give an opinion." Chu Hao gave him a cold glance at this, completely ungrateful. The reason why he came here today is naturally because he is interested in the leading position of the Changle Gang. Being an ancient puzzler definitely has no future, and this can be clearly said by Chu Hao from later generations. But in this era, whether doing business or anything else, there is a need for sufficient military force to escort. Therefore, Chu Hao plans to use the Changle Gang as a springboard to earn his first bucket of gold, and then lead the Changle Gang to slowly transform into a legitimate business. As Chu Hao pondered in his heart, he sneered as he looked at Scar's face and said, "My opinion. My opinion is very simple. If the boss fails, it should be reasonable for me, as the leader of the boss, to be the leader. Now, I formally inform everyone that I want to be the leader. Whoever supports and opposes me. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Coming out to get around, we need to talk about power and background. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Hao's words echoed through the hall, and in an instant everyone's gaze changed. No one expected that Chu Hao would dare to stand up and choose so openly. Although he is the leader and confidant of Feihu, there is no one under his command to support him. Why should he? Bang! In the hall, Big Eyes slapped the table and stood up, shouting loudly, "Grass, what are you? You deserve to choose. So, do you object?" Chu Hao looked at him calmly. "That's right, I oppose it." His big eyes are not weak at all. He has 180 people under his command, and compared to Chu Hao, who has no foundation, his influence is greater and more powerful, naturally full of confidence. Boom! But just as his words fell, Chu Hao moved and stepped forward, directly leaving a hole in the ground. Then, his whole body resembled that of a cheetah, and he rushed straight towards his big eyes. Watching this scene, the Yan's expression changed and he was about to open his mouth and ask his subordinates to protect him. Before he could speak, Chu Hao had already arrived in front of him, grabbed his head, and smashed it fiercely towards the table in front of him. Bang! With a loud bang, the solid mahogany table was smashed into a big hole by Big Eye's head. Without even saying a word, Big Eye was knocked unconscious. Blood flowed from his head, dripping low to the ground. The people around were all stunned by this scene, and no one expected that Chu Hao would dare to take action at a word of disagreement. This is also one of the reasons why everyone didn't react. At this moment, looking at the pitiful appearance of Big Eyes, everyone present finally came to their senses. At that moment, the little brothers behind Big Eyes shouted angrily, "Let go of my boss." As they spoke, the three closest horses thought that Chu Hao had rushed forward. Upon seeing this, Chu Hao was not polite at all. He spun his body and swept over with a sweep of his legs. Bang bang! With three muffled noises in a row, the three fastest horses were swept out by Chu Hao's foot and hit directly on the wall behind them. Judging from the collapse of their chests, it was obvious that their sternum had been broken by Chu Hao's kick. Watching this scene, the pupils of everyone present shrank one after another, and a hint of shock and fear appeared in their eyes. Chu Hao is so capable of fighting. Why didn't they know before? Everyone's faces were full of fear, and the horse cubs with big eyes hesitated, but dared not continue to charge forward. A few hundred yuan a month, what's the point of playing with fate? They're not stupid. Now, I want to choose the leader, who supports and who opposes it. With one hand pressing on his big-eyed head, Chu Hao's gaze slowly looked around and he spoke again in a deep voice. At this moment, the same words rang out again, but everyone's mood was completely different from before. Previously, when Chu Hao was going to come out to choose, everyone was not only surprised, but also had a mentality of watching jokes. But now, with Chu Hao displaying terrifying strength and his intimidating big eyes pressed on the table, everyone suddenly felt that Chu Hao might really be elected as the leader. Of course, this is just the idea of most paparazzi. Compared to an ordinary horse, Scarface and another leader, Huamian, slowly stood up and looked at Chu Hao with a gloomy expression. They are all strong competitors for the position of the leader, and the younger brother below may not care who the leader is, anyway it has nothing to do with them, but Scarface and Flower Face are not good. This has directly violated their interests. Chu Hao, are you very good at fighting? However, if you can fight again, you can beat hundreds of people under our command. When you come out to mess around, you need to talk about your power and background. What kind of person are you, just a little scumbag? Do you really think that being the leader of Feihong brother is something? Today, let's leave our words here. You want to be the leader, dream. Scarface shouted loudly, and at this moment he also tore off his hypocritical face, no longer covering it up. As his words fell, dozens of people rushed in outside the door, each holding a knife. Seeing this scene, everyone else's pupils shrank and they instantly realized something in their hearts. Obviously, Scarface had already prepared to seize power by force. If it weren't for Chu Hao's appearance, I'm afraid these swordsmen would have been prepared for them now. Besides Scarface, Huamian turned her head and glanced at Scarface, revealing a hint of gloom. He stood up with Scarface before, only to see Chu Hao unhappy. He was just a little kid who wanted to ride on his head. But now, looking at his prepared scarred face, he suddenly felt his dangerous situation. Can we still let go of Chu Hao and Big Eyes after dealing with Scarface? Thinking of this, a hint of heaviness flashed in his heart, and he silently took a few steps back, intending to find an opportunity to escape. The scar face on the side didn't notice this scene, and at this moment his attention was all focused on Chu Hao. Do you see me, Shizai? This is the confidence to come out and mess around. Can hit has a fart effect. Go ahead, chop him down for me. Scarface, after pretending to be forced, waved his hand and said, the horse next to him, who was already prepared, rushed towards Chu Hao without saying a word, shouting to completely chop him over. Watching this scene, Chu Hao remained calm on his face, but couldn't help but curse in his heart. Grass, the protagonists in the novel who seized power by force were indeed deceiving. A normal routine, shouldn't it be a shock of one's own domineering aura that intimidates everyone? How come so many people suddenly appear to want to chop me off? Roast constantly in his heart, Chu Hao also knew that he had no way to retreat now. He would either be killed or make a future with his fists. There are no other options besides that. Kill. Chu Hao let out a furious shout, and instead of retreating, he moved forward. Level 10 comprehensive fighting includes not only Chinese ancient martial arts, but also Thai boxing, Sanda, Israeli comprehensive fighting, Brazilian war dance and many other essence of boxing. Now Chu Hao pounced with all his might, using a deadly move. Boom! With a loud bang and a knee strike, the knife wielder who rushed forward was directly knocked away by Chu Hao, fiercely smashing towards the crowd behind, directly dispersing their formation. Taking advantage of their chaotic movements, Chu Hao kept attacking and continued to pounce. Fists, elbows, knees, feet, freely venting in the crowd. With his powerful fighting skills and superhero reaction speed, Chu Hao often knocked them down before they could raise their hands to attack. For a moment, although it was a one-to-many situation, in the eyes of others, it was Chu Hao alone who was suppressing dozens of people to fight. Bang! 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 The dull collision sound kept ringing, and those who did not participate in the battle looked at the situation on the field, one by one stunned. Finally, someone couldn't help but say, "Is this still human?" Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Gua's son's travel returns. You are listening at novel full.audio. Quiet. A deathly silence. In the hall, apart from the occasional wailing on the ground, the onlookers all looked at the proud figure standing among the crowd with a shocked expression. Several dozen people were still holding blades, but in less than 10 minutes, they all collapsed under Chu Hao's fist. What kind of military force, what kind of strength, what kind of lying trough? Everyone present was stunned by Chu Hao's performance, picking out dozens. This kind of scene, which used to only appear in novels and storybooks, now suddenly unfolds before their eyes. If it weren't for the constant wailing on the ground reminding them, they would really think they were dreaming. Is this kind of one-on-point-one scene really a record that people can achieve? Whether anyone can achieve this step in the future is unknown to everyone, but they know that they have never heard of it before. In an instant, everyone present looked at Chu Hao with awe in their eyes. All living beings have strong instincts, and in nature, the most powerful creatures often gain the respect of other beings. There are also many examples of this among humans. However, in the past, people defined strength as power and money. But now, Chu Hao has refreshed everyone's definition of strength with his own fist. It is not the strength of any external object, but the strength of oneself. Without relying on anything, just one pair of fists can make everyone feel awe. Compared to the awe of others, Scarface was completely flustered at this moment, his body trembling and his lips constantly trembling. Even in his heart, he felt an extreme sense of regret, wondering why he had to jump out and be the leader. Now it's okay, we've kicked the iron plate. At this moment, Scarface felt a flustered yappy in her heart. At this moment, Chu Hao in the center of the crowd finally moved. He slowly turned around and looked at Scarface, walking silently toward Scarface. Da-da-da. The sound of footsteps echoed on the ground, but at this moment it was like stepping on the heart of a scarred face, making him feel a thrilling sensation. Finally, Chu Hao stood in front of Scarface and slowly raised his hand. But before his palm could fall, with a thud, Scarface knelt down directly in front of Chu Hao. Brother Hao, I was wrong. I was blind and bumped into your old man. I'm damned. Please let me go. Haoge, aren't you going to be the leader? My scarred face fully supports you to rise to the top. From now on, I will be your dog. Whatever you call me, I won't dare to say anything. Please give me a way to survive, Brother Hao. Bang 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 bang. After speaking, Scarface knocked his head in front of Chu Hao without any embarrassment. Watching this scene, Chu Hao couldn't help but smile at the corners of his mouth. Actually, I still like your wild and unruly expression just now. Otherwise, would you like to recover? I dare not, Brother Hao. I really know I was wrong. Please let me go and treat me like a fart. Scared face, hands clasped together, a pleading expression on his face. With this flexible posture, this guy is a talent. Not everyone can achieve his level, and when they see the situation is not good, they immediately kneel down and beg to surrender. It's a pity that such talents are not under our command. Chu Hao shook his head and sighed, while holding on to Scarface's head with both hands. With Scarface's frightened expression on his face, he forcefully twisted it. Click. This scumbag, who had just been defined by Chu Hao as a talent, ended his sinful life like this. There are many talented people in the world, and he is not ruthless. He insists on keeping someone who has a grudge against him. The human heart is unpredictable, don't you know? If Scarface were not a talented person, Chu Hao might not have killed him, but unfortunately, he is such a person. It is even more dangerous to cause trouble, so it is better to kill him in advance. As others watched Chu Hao with a smile twist off his scarred head, they couldn't help feeling a pang of panic. Especially the only intact flour noodles, the 3 leaders. Now he is the only one left intact, it's difficult for him not to panic. I want to be the leader, who agrees and who opposes. Chu Hao's words rang out again, this was the 3rd time. As soon as he said this, Hua Mian's heart skipped a beat. The first time, he knelt down with big eyes, the second time, Scarface died, and now it's the 3rd time. He won't have to worry too, right? I agree. Brother Hao, you are wise, divine, and powerful. Our entire Changle community has long been waiting for someone like you to lead us. I fully support Brother Hao's rise to power. If anyone dares to oppose me, you don't need to take action, Brother Hao. I will immediately execute him. Driven by the desire for survival, Huamian quickly and firmly expressed her position. Chu Hao's face was relieved to hear his words, it was really good, finally there was someone to support him. And you guys? Chu Hao turned his gaze to the others again. Those who can come to the meeting, even if they are not the leader, are still the little leaders who have separated themselves from the lower level of the ancient puzzle. These people can also be considered the cornerstone of the Changle Gang. They were originally just here to gather numbers, but to their surprise, there was still time for them to express their opinions. At present, everyone spoke out one after another. I support Brother Hao. That's right, Brother Hao is in power, and I am convinced. Who dares not support me? Let's see if I don't kill him. Everyone spoke up and expressed their loyalty to Chu Hao. With an absolute advantage of unanimous approval, Chu Hao was officially elected as the leader of Changle. Great, let's clean up this place. It's so messy, what does it look like? Also, lock that guy up for me. I suspect he embezzled our Changle money, investigate carefully. Chu Hao pointed to his dazed big eyes and said. He has a small mind, and once he ascends to power, he naturally needs to settle his differences. As for the big-eyed Ma Zai, after hearing Chu Hao's words, he didn't dare to fart and watched helplessly as others arrested his own boss. Soon, under the command of Chu Hao, the once chaotic Changle General Hall became tidy and orderly again. Just as Chu Hao was planning to give a brief speech to everyone and express his thoughts on his rise. Suddenly, a cold electronic synthesizer sounded in his mind. Your brat's son has returned from his trip and looked at your current good life with a relieved smile. He is about to travel again, and for your safety, he has left you a gun-fighting skill. Do you want to accept it? Upon hearing these words, Chu Hao's face lit up with joy as his own son brought him a gift again. Suddenly, Chu Hao didn't have the mood to continue talking, so he hastily sent everyone to the back of the main hall. Changle General Hall is a courtyard similar to a quadrangle, with the front hall used for daily meetings and the back house reserved for the dragon head as a resting place. Now Chu Hao is the leader, so this place belongs to him. Upon arriving in the backyard, Chu Hao casually found a room, closed the door, and silently recited with a hopeful expression, accept. In an instant, a large number of skills and insights about gun-fighting techniques merged into Chu Hao's mind, and at the same time, a mysterious energy also descended, further improving Chu Hao's physique. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Stuttering. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gunfight, a special combat technique that combines firearms, can be said to be the pinnacle of marksmanship. Ordinary people use guns to shoot wherever they want, while experts use guns to predict in advance. Gunfight is amazing, as it allows bullets to turn around. With this skill, Chu Hao instantly transformed into the world's #1 marksmanship expert. As long as he had a gun, he was the world's top killing machine, a terrifying yuppie. Unfortunately, despite being the world's top marksman, he doesn't have a gun of his own right now, which is a bit regrettable. But it's not a big problem. He's at least the leader of Changle now, and getting a gun is not easy. At that time, he will have level 10 comprehensive combat skills in close combat and gun fighting skills in long-range combat. Unless surrounded by a large army or directly targeted by missiles, he will be an invincible presence. With this thought in mind, Chu Hao couldn't help but smile on his face. Now that safety was guaranteed, everything else was not just casual. Set a small goal first and earn enough to make 1 billion. As a layman, Chu Hao's pursuit is actually very simple. In the morning, he eats breakfast at Tiffany and talks about life with beautiful women. At noon, he drinks some Mao Tai at the Beijing Hotel. In the afternoon, he tastes afternoon tea in London, England. In the evening, he goes to see if Victoria has any secrets. He never achieved such a simple goal in his previous life, but in this life, he needs to enjoy everything, he says. With a goal in mind, Chu Hao immediately took action with full enthusiasm. Firstly, he needs to control the entire Changle community. Ultimately, the Changle Gang is just a social organization, and its control over personnel is not only lacking, but also pitifully low. If you are determined to follow the path of Kapuzi, then there is nothing wrong with such an organizational structure. But Chu Hao doesn't want to be a bad guy all the time, so he must integrate the bad guys from Changle, not to mention where to go, but it is also necessary to achieve unified scheduling and avoid situations where one goes against the other. Fortunately, this goal is relatively simple. His big eyes were ruined, his scarred face was slaughtered, and his only remaining flower face was also scared out of courage. Without the obstacles of these three people, Chu Hao would not have much difficulty in integrating Changle. After all, unlike those large clubs that support a group of uncles, Changle was established by Feihong. Although there is not much background, there is no restraint. As long as you handle the leader under your command, it is basically the leader's one word. In just 3 days, the long music of thousands of people was reduced by Chu Hao to around 500 people. Those who have been downsized are old fogies who have been rotten for many years. These people have already developed a bad habit, and Chu Hao, who is determined to pursue the right path, naturally cannot keep them. Including Huamian, he was also streamlined by Chu Hao. Under Chu Hao's absolute military suppression, he did not even stir up any waves. After streamlining everyone, Chu Hao's second step was to pay the remaining people. When the ancient confused child is very miserable, those who make it out are okay, barely able to eat and drink without worrying, and those who can't make it out, having 3 meals a day is a problem, and even having to hold their head to help the boss chop people, not to mention the words, miserable. And Chu Hao naturally paid them salaries to win over their loyalty. As the saying goes, money can make ghosts grind. With Chu Hao's large sum of money, he quickly gathered the loyalty of all 500 people. As for where the money came from, Big Eyes and Scarface have not been spared in recent years, and the wealth left by Feihong has also been swallowed by Chu Hao. These 3 people, scattered and scattered, together have a total of around 3 million. Besides, paying a salary in the short term is enough. After handling these matters, Chu Hao focused on the sources of income for the Changle Gang. Changle itself has no territory and relies solely on smuggling cars to make money. The source of the cars is partly stolen by subordinates, while others are smuggled from Southeast Asia. Most of these cars are accident cars, they can be easily repaired and repainted, and they can be sold at a decent price. As for what to do if something happens, it will naturally be considered unlucky for you. This smuggling vehicle channel alone can bring at least 5 million yuan in profits to Changle in a year, in addition to other gray areas. Although Changle does not have a main business, it still has some involvement, and its annual profit can increase by about 3 million yuan. It looks quite substantial, but this is the total income of a club. According to Changle's previous model, this income was enough to support Changle, but not now. Chu Hao gave his subordinates a monthly salary of 3,000 yuan, and their monthly salary alone was over 1 million yuan. According to Changle's current income, it is over 9 million yuan per year, and the salary alone is not enough. There is still a gap of several million yuan. With such a big gap, Chu Hao was so scared that he wanted to just roll up the money and run away. He couldn't afford it. Otherwise, it's better to streamline a portion of the staff and save expenses. But after careful consideration, Chu Hao ultimately gave up on continuing to streamline personnel. If you want to become a big shot, you not only need money in your hands, but also someone. Only with money and people can you stand firm in this era. If you have money but no one, you are like a fattened Chinese New Year pig that may be slaughtered at any time. Seeing that there was no hope of saving money, Chu Hao had no choice but to find a way to open source. As a descendant, Chu Hao's grasp of future trends is unmatched by anyone. Let's not talk about real estate or anything else. In this era, the best money to make is still from the entertainment industry. Of course, it's not about making movies, but selling pirated CDs. He is well aware that the entertainment industry in Xinjiang will usher in a golden age, with various classic Hong Kong films emerging one after another, becoming popular throughout Asia. Even in later generations, Xinjiang will still be referred to as Eastern Hollywood, demonstrating the influence of Xinjiang's film industry. If Chu Hao can catch this fast train, he will definitely make a lot of money. However, there is a problem. He has no money, and the 3 million he has is enough to pay 2 months' salary. Although the smuggling car business is still generating revenue, it is impossible for it to suddenly turn into several million. If he wants to promote the big business of pirated CDs, not to mention the abundance, he must also prepare millions of start-up funds. After all, to spread goods throughout Southeast Asia, millions of dollars may not be enough. As for slow development, I'm sorry, this is no longer under Chu Hao's consideration. He came to this era not for slow development, but to eat it all at once and become a fat man. It would be best if he could become the world's richest person tomorrow. So, it's impossible to be slow, but where should we get some quick money? Chu Hao had a headache, and just then, a young horse walked in cautiously. "Boss, I stutter and want to see you." That little stutter. Chu Hao was stunned for a moment, but didn't react for a moment. "It's our champion from Changle last month." Ma Zai was careful, and upon hearing his warning, Chu Hao immediately realized that the champion of last month was the one who stole the most cars last month. Stealing cars the most, stuttering, Feihong. Chu Hao, who was originally somewhat strange, immediately smiled when he connected these 3 things together. He suddenly remembered a plot from the ancient puzzle, where he stumbled and stole a car, was caught, and then found a big shot to support him. If that's the case, then his startup funds will be secure. Let her in. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6, Let's Release Blood for Brother B. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fly, fly, Feihong brother. In the living room, Chu Hao held a cup of tea and served it to the entrance. Outside the door, a stuttering sound followed, and the next second, a small stutter wearing a belly-button suit, a short skirt, and fishing net socks wrapped around his legs walked in. After entering the door, looking at Chu Hao sitting in the upper position, he was stunned when he paused. Little Stuttering is not a formal member of Changle, but can only be considered as a car thief affiliated with Changle. Usually, the car she steals is handed over to Changle at a low price, and Changle is responsible for supporting her. It sounds absurd, even if they become thieves, they still need to find support, but this is how it is in this era. Not to mention car thieves, even street vendors have to worship the mountain so that you can enjoy this meal. Of course, a typical car thief is definitely not qualified to let Feihong help her stand out, that is, only with good performance can Feihong stand out. You, who are you? Fly, fly, where is Feihong brother? Little stuttered with a puzzled expression. Upon hearing this, Chu Hao put down his teacup and scrutinized his little stutter while smiling, saying, Feihong died a few days ago. Now that I am in charge of Changle, just let me know if you have anything to do. Upon hearing this news, Xiao Stuttering was a bit dumbfounded. After all, Feihong was a big shot in her eyes, and now she's actually hanging up. Fortunately, she didn't get tangled up either. She came to look for a support. Feihong was hanging up, and Chu Hao could handle it. Next, Xiao Stammer told her story. As Chu Hao expected, she stole Chen Hanan's car, was found, and was forced to eat Cha Siu Bao at the top of the mountain. If it had been before, Chu Hao wouldn't have been too lazy to get involved in such a bad thing, but who would have made him short of money? The next thing he said was, don't worry, although Feihong has failed, you are a person from Changle, and I will definitely not do anything without you. Chicken, post a post to Big B in Causeway Bay asking him to come out and drink tea. Got it, big shot. A spirited restaurant, lobby. This is one of the restaurants where people in the martial arts world often come to talk about things. It is said that the owner behind it is a certain martial arts lord. When Chu Hao and his companions appeared with courage not long after, a large group of people quickly walked in outside the restaurant. The leader was a muscular man with a face full of flesh, accompanied by dozens of people. Chu Hao immediately looked over and recognized Big B, Chen Haonan, Shanji, and others who were 7 times similar to the movie at a glance. However, he knows Big B, but Big B doesn't know him. Who is the person in charge of Changle Talk? Why don't you dare to show up when you meet me? The B spoke directly. As his words fell, Chu Hao's lazy voice also sounded, Brother B, here. Upon hearing the sound, Big B and others turned their heads to look at Chu Hao, who looked arrogant and crossed his legs. They all frowned. Gufuzi is a very strange creature that must be pulled by oneself, but it is not allowed to be pulled by others in front of oneself. Looking at Chu Hao's arrogant appearance, Chen Haonan and his companions were about to get angry on the spot. However, before they could speak, Big B raised his hand and stopped them. Then a smile appeared on B's face and he walked up to meet Chu Hao. Little brother, you look a bit unfamiliar. How do you call him? Chu Hao. Look at how young you are, you actually sit in the position of Changle Talk person. You are indeed young and promising. B continued to smile, without any trace of the arrogance of the Jianghu people. Young and promising, I dare not take it for granted. It's just a matter of making a living. Alright, stop talking nonsense. Brother B, your subordinate's younger brother bullied my subordinate's younger sister. How can we calculate this account? Chu Hao is too lazy to procrastinate with Big B, he's here to make money, not to build friendships. He's now getting straight to the topic. What's the point of your people stealing my car, grass? Chu Hao's words fell, and before Big B could speak, Chen Haonan beside him immediately patted the table and stood up. Upon hearing this, Chu Hao smiled brightly. Brother B, are all the people under your command so small or not? When Big Brother talks, why bother being a little brother? They are all young people with explosive temper, which is understandable. Besides, what he said is also true. Your people stole my little brother's car, and my little brother retrieved it by himself, which is reasonable, right? B had a gentle smile on his face, and Chu Hao curled his lips before slowly getting up and saying, Brother B, have you forgotten that I am also a young person? After speaking, Chu Hao slapped him with a backhand. Pop. A crisp sound echoed through the hall, and Chen Haonan was slapped in the face by Chu Hao, his face turning red. Watching this scene, everyone around was stunned. No one expected Chu Hao to dare to take action, especially the person from Big B. They are Hong Shing, one of the largest clubs in Xiangjiang, Changle, just a small club. How dare Chu Hao take action? But Chu Hao's idea is even simpler. He's not just a fool, why should he give face to Hong Shing? In his previous life, he just lowered his head and became a child. This quilt also comes with cheats, and we still have to give face to a group of bad guys. You're just a few years old. Grass, bastard, I'll kill you. Chen Haonan went crazy, looking at Chu Hao with an angry expression on his face. He was about to pounce. If it weren't for the mountain chicken and a few people hugging him in time, he would have rushed out. As the saying goes, hitting someone without slapping their face, cursing someone without scolding their mother. As an ancient troublemaker, he was slapped in public, where did his face go? As for De B, he also stood up with a gloomy expression on the table, glaring angrily at Chu Hao and shouting, "My people, when will it be your turn to teach you a lesson? Why, do you want to go to war with us Hongxing?" De B's words were originally intended to use Hongxing's reputation to suppress others and make Chu Hao bow down and admit his mistake. Little did they know that what Chu Hao and others said was his own. Embark on war. Let's start war as soon as it starts, no one is afraid of anyone. Since we can't reach an agreement, let's not talk about it. Chu Hao spoke with a nonchalant expression on his face. After speaking, he only heard a loud crash and the table in front of him was flipped over by Chu Hao. As the sound spread from the restaurant, a large number of people rushed out of several small alleys outside the Spirit restaurant, holding knives in their hands, and quickly rushed into the Spirit restaurant, surrounding De B and his group. Looking at this scene, Big B and his group changed their expressions, and Big B even looked at Chu Hao angrily and shouted, "Bastard, you're playing with Ian. He has been wandering in the martial arts world for many years, and nowhere can he see it. Chu Hao has already set up a trap and is waiting for him to burrow into it. Whatever you think, it's not me who's going to have an accident today. Come on, let Brother B bleed and let him sober up. Now who's the boss?" Chu Hao joked and said. After hearing this, the person from Changle was about to take action. Seeing this, Big B's pupils contracted and he quickly shouted, "Wait. Let's go, what conditions do you have to say?" If this had happened earlier, it would have been over. It's a waste of time. 10 million, take out 10 million, and I'll let you go out. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Erdi, it's all Erdi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Hao shook one finger and spoke up. Upon hearing this, Big B's face suddenly changed. Grass, you're crazy about money. 10 million, why don't you go grab it? Brother B, don't talk nonsense. This is the spiritual compensation I want for my subordinates. How can it be considered a robbery? Don't slander me. Chu Hao smiled and said, Big B looked uncomfortable after hearing this. I really want to say, is that little sister of yours inlaid with gold diamonds, worth 10 million? But Chu Hao didn't give him a chance to interject and continued, 10 million yuan, not a penny less. The money is in place, and I guarantee that you will safely leave here with 1 penny less. So, Brother B, you should call your family and ask them to help you collect the body. You have 30 seconds to consider, time it now. Speaking, Chu Hao looked up at the old-fashioned clock on the wall of the restaurant. The ticking of the second hand played, and the atmosphere in the hall was quiet and terrifying. The little brother next to Big B seemed fierce, but his face was constantly twitching. In the late autumn of September, the temperature is cool, but these people's foreheads are covered with sweat beads. Quickly, 30 seconds passed, and Chu Hao waved his hand, hands on. Wait a minute, I'll give it to you. Big B roared, he finally compromised, but his expression on the face was extremely ugly. Although he is the leader of Causeway Bay and earns a considerable monthly income, he still has to pay the amount to the higher-ups every month. 10 million yuan, for him, is enough to hurt his muscles and bones. 10 million, I'll give it to you. I'll have someone go and withdraw the money now. Haonan, please take a trip. De Beat called out, and upon seeing this, Chu Hao smiled nonchalantly, not afraid of him playing tricks. Go 2 people, follow him. Chu Hao waved his hand and immediately 2 people from Changle followed behind Chen Haonan, one on the left and the other on the right. Chen Haonan gave Chu Hao a cold glance and turned to leave. At this moment, Chu Hao suddenly spoke up and said, I'll only wait for you for 20 minutes. I won't see any money in 20 minutes. You can figure it out for yourself. After speaking, Chu Hao no longer glanced at Chen Haonan, but walked towards Big B with a burst of laughter on his face. Brother B, I'm sorry. I didn't scare you earlier, did I? I'm just joking. Today we're talking about counting, why are we still standing? Sit down quickly. Who's that? He doesn't have any eye power. Serve the wine. Seeing Chu Hao's face change in the blink of an eye, everyone in the hall couldn't help but look strange. Under Chu Hao's pull, no matter how unwilling Big B was, he could only sit down temporarily. Brother B, today I have offended you a lot. Your adult has a lot, so don't argue with me, a younger generation. This way, after drinking this bottle of wine, we will smile and forget our grudges. Feel free, I'll do it first. Chu Hao smiled heartily and picked up a bottle of beer to drink. The martial arts world is not only about fighting and killing, but also about human relationships and worldly wisdom. Chu Hao tricked Big B and took advantage of it. At this point, it is natural to lower your posture and give Big B a step down. In this way, if he wants to cause trouble afterwards, he has no excuse. Looking at the wine that Chu Hao forcibly stuffed into his hand, Big B really wanted to smash a bottle of wine. This wine is not for free. After drinking this glass of wine, it means he agrees to take out 10 million yuan to settle the grudge between Little Stutter and Chen Haonan. Afterwards, he had no reason to demand the money back. Chu Hao is going to completely block his path. Thinking of this, Big B couldn't help but glare at Chu Hao. This young man has enough ruthlessness in his methods and is skilled in his work, which is really difficult to deal with. Looking at Chu Hao's smiling expression, he also knew that he couldn't stop drinking this glass of wine today. At present, he could only take a deep breath. Seeing that De B had finished drinking the liquor, Chu Hao's smile became even brighter. He immediately warmly asked people to serve the dishes, greeted everyone to eat, and made enough face. When Chen Haonan and Changle's 2 horses returned carrying money boxes, they happened to see the lively atmosphere in the hall. It looks quite harmonious, there is no hint of tension in the sword. For a moment, Chen Haonan seemed to have 3 question marks on his head, confused by the current scene. Quickly, 10 million yuan was handed over to Chu Hao, and looking at the money box placed in front of him, Big B felt a painful sensation. These are all his money, now they all belong to Chu Hao. Thinking of this, he used to have some illusory thoughts about snakes, but now he's completely gone. I can leave now, he said with a foul expression on his face. Where did Brother B say? This is not my home. Brother B can leave if he wants. Who dares to stop you? With the money in hand, Chu Hao was too lazy to pretend, and his words became impolite again. The changes in demeanor before and after are mainly focused on 2 words, real. And this made Big B's face twitch, it's too much. But he didn't continue to argue, he was afraid that Chu Hao would blackmail him another 10 million later. Let's go. Angry and shouting, Big B turned around and left. Chen Haonan and others quickly followed suit, and soon, all the people brought by Big B left. As soon as these people left, the little stuttering person who had been sitting next to Chu Hao couldn't suppress his excitement. He hugged Chu Hao's arms and looked admiring, saying, big shot, you too powerful. Surprisingly, really let them accompany me for 10 million. That's right, you don't even see who I am. Chu Hao proudly said. To be proud in life, one must be full of joy. If one should pretend to be coerced, one must pretend to be coerced. As the saying goes, if there is coerce, one should not pretend. Heaven strikes and thunder strikes. This is called conforming to the will of heaven. Unfortunately, before he could be proud for 2 seconds, the little stutterer would leave him speechless with the next sentence. Big boss, when will we split the money? What's the split of money? Chu Hao, who was originally praised for his superior skills, instantly calmed down and calmly opened his stuttering hands, keeping a distance from her. Well, wasn't it compensation for me, Jing, mental damage? Little stuttered a bit urgently, the frequency of stuttering has increased compared to before. What's yours, that's mine, understand? He finally knocked out a sum of money, but before it even heated up, he wanted to share his money and eat his fart. I am the victim. Little stuttered and wanted to argue with reason, but Chu Hao gave her a headache. Don't dream anymore, wash up and sleep. There's everything in your dream. Alright, brothers, it's almost time to withdraw. Don't turn around and get stuck, just have fun. Got it, big brother. The younger brothers all responded one after another, and then Chu Hao walked out directly with his people. Watching this scene, Stuttering quickly followed suit. She was not a formal member of Changle and didn't need to be with Chu Hao. But she was still thinking about that 10 million, so she wouldn't leave. Big boss, wait for me, let's discuss again. If it's not possible, you can give me 100,000 yuan. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. I come to meet Liangkun. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Causeway Bay, Hongqing Branch Hall. Returning to the entrance, Big B angrily smashed the newly purchased purple clay teapot. Grass, deceiving others too much. That little bastard, extortion has actually hit me, I'm so angry. Brother B, don't get angry. At most, we'll go and be that bastard right away. The mountain chicken smiled pleasantly. Be your mother's head, what I want is that 10 million yuan. If you do him, where can I get the money back? The bee roared angrily, despite his usual amiability, it was because he had not touched his interests. Now he has lost 10 million in one breath, and not going crazy on the spot is already considered a deep understanding of his city. Brother B, it's my fault for this matter. I caused it all. Don't worry, I will definitely give you an explanation. Chen Haonan stood up and said. Looking at him, although Big B was angry in his heart, his tone of voice was not as aggressive as that of a pheasant. Haonan, this matter has nothing to do with you. It's completely that bastard who is deceiving me. However, my money is not that easy to get. If you dare to take my money, I will make sure he looks good. Brother B, do you have any ideas? Humph, Changle is engaged in smuggling cars, and the entire Changle relies on the smuggling car line to survive. I met a car dealer in Southeast Asia, and if that bastard dares to extort me, he will directly cut off Changle's financial path. The Beak confidently said, and after listening, Chen Haonan and the others suddenly brightened up. In this way, if that kid wants to resume business, he'll have to beg Brother B. When the time comes, not to mention bringing back that 10 million yuan, even if he wants to learn how to bark like a dog, it won't be a problem. Shanji praised, and after listening, Big B's face also showed a slight smile. However, we can't be careless. In case that bastard runs away with money, he'll be in trouble. So, Haonan, you guys have been keeping an eye on that bastard lately. Don't let that bastard run away with my money. The B instructed. Don't worry, Brother B, we will definitely keep an eye on that kid. Well, come on, you guys go do something. I'll be quiet alone. Debi waved his hand and sent the few people away directly. When no one was around, his expression twisted into a ball, 10 million, and he felt heartbroken. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed, and during these 3 days, Chu Hao was not idle either. With the 10 million yuan given by Debi, he went around setting up stores and videotape factories. In just 3 days, when he started with money, he had already opened nearly 30 stores, covering most of the Xiangjiang River. His shops exist in areas such as Kowloon, Central and Western District, Wan Chai, Sham Shui Pe, Mong Kok, and so on. As long as he can provide the source of goods, he can start operating directly to make money. However, before that, he still had to solve 2 problems. The first one was the channel problem. It was easy to say about Xiangjiang sales channels, but there were some troubles outside of Xiangjiang. Videotapes make money, he knows, and there are also smart people in this era who know. If he wants to invade someone else's territory, he naturally needs to find someone to cover it up, otherwise his business won't be able to continue. So, he must find a way to open up sales channels outside of Xiangjiang. Secondly, the source of the film. If he wants to sell films from the Xiangjiang film industry, he naturally needs a copy of the source. But these copies are not so easy to obtain, and he also lacks interpersonal relationships in this area. Of course, he can also use a clumsy method of finding someone to take a camera directly to the cinema to record. Apart from being a bit troublesome, the quality is poor, and there is a bit more noise, which seems to have little impact. Many piracy merchants in later generations did this, but upon careful consideration, Chu Hao still gave up this method. Piracy should also be about quality. If the quality is too poor, who cares about you? For a while, Chu Hao felt a headache troubled by these 2 issues. And whenever the house leaked rain overnight, just as Chu Hao was having a headache, trouble came again. A young man hurriedly walked in and said, "Boss, it's not good. The Southeast Asian side has sent a letter saying they will no longer supply us. Has the message been confirmed?" Chu Hao frowned lightly. "Confirmed, I specifically inquired and it seems that a powerful supplier over there is blocking us." "Grass, Big B, you bastard, play this trick for me." Chu Hao cursed angrily, and after listening, Ma Zai couldn't help but be taken aback. "Boss, did Big B do it? Besides him, who else is there? I knocked him 10 million yuan with my front foot, and then he cut off my financial path with my back foot. This street thump will sooner or later be buried alive." To be honest, Chu Hao is not very angry about the cut-off of the smuggling vehicle channel. Even if it weren't for this one, he would have voluntarily given up soon. He doesn't want to go forever on the path of being a loser, so for businesses like these black areas, he can avoid them if he can. The behavior of asking his subordinates to steal cars and sell them before Changle was directly banned after Chu Hao took office. But it's different for him to take the initiative to cut it off from being cut off by someone. A piece of bread, he can choose not to eat and throw it away, but others cannot take the initiative to grab it from him and throw it away. These are 2 different things. As for the cause of this matter, it was that he knocked out 10 million yuan for Big B. I'm sorry, he forgot, he doesn't remember. Chu Hao's life creed is that if there is kindness, I may not necessarily repay it, but if there is hatred, I will definitely repay it. Alright, I understand this matter now. Don't pay attention to it. Tell the brothers to sell the smuggled vehicles in stock as soon as possible. In the future, we will do other business and not engage in smuggled vehicles. Okay, big shot, I got it. Ma Zai responded and then turned around to leave. After waiting for someone to leave, Chu Hao sat in place and pondered for a moment before getting up and leaving Changle. Sham Shui Pe, Changshan Group. Of course, the so-called Changshan Group is just a 3-story modern building. 2 black sedans, one in front and one behind, escorted the tiger-headed car in the middle and slowly stopped at the entrance of Changshan Group. After the car came to a stop, the black sedan quickly opened, and several horses wearing black suits came to the side of Tiger Head Run. They opened the car door and stood respectfully on both sides. The next second, Chu Hao walked directly out of the car, dressed in a decent casual suit, a pair of shiny leather shoes, and a Rolex on his wrist, dressed like an elite person. After getting off the car, Chu Hao headed straight to Qiangxing Building, and the horses on both sides quickly followed. The group walked along the way, attracting the attention of those around them. In these days, the streets are filled with red, yellow, blue, and green antique figurines, but elite individuals wearing suits and ties are not often seen. Based on this appearance, the two ancient troublemakers guarding the entrance of the Qiangxing group dared not step forward to stop Chu Hao and his group, and allowed them to walk in without any discomfort in their eyes. After entering the hall, the female receptionist looked at Chu Hao and his group with stunned expressions. It was only after Chu Hao knocked on the table to remind them that she regained her senses. A few, do you have anything to do? I'm here to meet Liangkun. Chu Hao smiled and said. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. Shameless Liangkun. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Qiangxing Group, 3rd floor, filming site. A man's breath alternated with a woman's moan, and suddenly, a young man rushed in and said to the male lead on set, Kun, someone is looking for you. Liangkun was at a critical moment when the horse shouted and scared him out of breath. Suddenly, he had a relaxed and beautiful expression, and his expression was so gloomy that it could drip water. He got up from the woman and swaggered towards the horse. Watching this scene, Ma Zai's face couldn't help but become fearful. At this moment, he also realized that he had stirred up the interest of his own big shot. Kun, I didn't mean to. Ma Zai trembled and said. Liangkun didn't speak, just waved at him. Seeing this, although Ma Zai's heart was filled with fear, he dared not disobey and could only approach Liangkun cautiously. Just as he approached Liangkun, before he could speak, Liangkun grabbed the yellow hair on his head. Ah! Kun Gu, I was wrong. Ma Zai screamed in agony, but Liangkun didn't mean to let go. He grabbed his hair with even more force from his wrist. Say, what's going on? Liangkun's hoarse tone sounded, and the listener inexplicably shuddered. It's the front desk. Just now, the front desk called and said, there's a group of people wearing suits looking for you, Kun. Ma Zai suppressed his headache and quickly spoke up. Is there anything else? No, it's gone. Pop. Liangkun slapped the horse directly in the face with his backhand, and then waved to the others around him. Drag it down, fight, teach him the rules well. Coming out to mess around, I don't have any vision at all, grass. Yes, brother Kun. The horses around nodded and quickly approached to drag the messenger down. The horse's face, which had been dragged down, suddenly showed a look of fear. Kun, I was wrong. Please forgive me once, I won't dare again next time. Unfortunately, Liangkun didn't even pay attention to him. Kun, clothes. Seeing that Liangkun had finished his task, the big head on the side quickly walked up and draped Liangkun in a robe. He is Jian Xinfu, the bodyguard of Liangkun. Go, call that group of people to come up. I'd like to see which bastard is looking for me at this time. Okay, Kun. The two nodded and turned to leave. Quickly, at the 3rd floor entrance, Chu Hao and his group led by the front desk lady arrived at the 3rd floor entrance. Their arrival stunned the busy others on the 3rd floor. There's no way, the attire of Chu Hao and his group is a bit out of place with this place. Are you guys going to see Kun? Just as Chu Hao was still scrutinizing the layout of the 3rd floor, a tall and muscular man in a black suit, standing 1.8 meters tall, walked over and spoke. That's right, are you? Chu Hao nodded and a polite smile appeared on his face. Call me Big Head, you come with me, but they have to stay here. The two pointed to the few people behind Chu Hao. Upon hearing this, the horse behind Chu Hao frowned and was about to speak, but Chu Hao raised his hand to stop them. Alright, you guys stay here. Yes, big brother. Several younger brothers nodded, and Chu Hao looked at the big head and said, Can you take me to see Liangkun now? Sure. After speaking, Big Head turned around and left, and Chu Hao lifted his leg to follow. For him, leading people is just a facade, and it's not certain who will protect him if something really happens. Besides, he is here today to discuss business, not to cut off people. Naturally, customers can follow the host. Quickly, Big Head led him to the entrance of an office and made a gesture of invitation. Chu Hao didn't stop and pushed the door in directly. As soon as he entered the door, a figure wearing pants appeared in his line of sight. Watching this scene, Chu Hao's eyes couldn't help but become somewhat strange. On the other hand, Liangkun glanced at Chu Hao and said confidently, Wait for me. I just finished trying out the play. Kun, you can do it yourself. Chu Hao smiled and then sat directly on the chair. Quickly, Liangkun put on his pants and sat down in front of Chu Hao. Wearing a wine-red suit, with sharp eyes and a strong aura, this posture can scare and cry many children. By the way, I haven't consulted yet. Which one of you? What are you doing with me? Liangkun looked at Chu Hao, neither too fast nor too slow, showing off his airs. My name is Chu Hao, the leader of Changle. I'm here today because I actually have a business that I want to talk to you, Brother Kun. Changle. Liangkun's face showed a thoughtful posture. I remember Changle's words. Isn't that the troublemaker named Feihong the bastard? How did he become you? Feihong hung up a few days ago, and now Changle is up to me the final say. Feihong hung up. What? How could I not know? Liangkun was shocked and then suddenly leaned forward, staring fiercely at Chu Hao. Feihong hung up, but Feihong still owes me 5 million. How can we calculate this account? As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere in the office suddenly changed, and Chu Hao looked at Liangkun speechlessly. He knew that Liangkun was insatiable, but he didn't expect this guy to be so greedy. Feihong owes money, why didn't he know? His predecessor was Feihong's leader, and he knew most of the things. Is it a plan to blackmail Feihong who just came to see him hang up? He has always been the only one to blackmail others. How could anyone possibly blackmail him? At the moment, Chu Hao leaned back and met Liangkun's gaze without showing any weakness, saying, I don't know if Feihong owes Kun your money, but Kun should know that debt can be repaid after death. I'll take your mother's head off. That's 5 million yuan. Do you think it's 500 yuan? I haven't gone to see you yet, but you brought me to your door first. I told you that today, if you can't give me 5 million yuan, I will leave you here to film and repay my debt. Liangkun's mouth curved into a fierce smile, and his eyes were cold. He was already displeased by being disturbed before, but Chu Hao happened to come forward at this moment. It's okay to come together. The key is Changle, it's just a small club. What qualifications do you have to sit down and talk to him about? In addition, with Feihong dead, he said Feihong owed him 5 million, who can deny it? If this kind of door-to-door bully doesn't strike a blow, he's not pretty Kun. It has to be said that Liangkun's methods are shameless, but they are also very clever. If it were someone else, he might have successfully blackmailed him today. Unfortunately, Chu Hao sitting opposite him, a guy who had just blackmailed Big B, is not inferior to him in terms of shamelessness and means. The most crucial point is that Chu Hao's strength is stronger than him. After listening to his words, Chu Hao first smiled. The next second, he suddenly reached out and grabbed Liangkun's hair. Under Liangkun's shocked gaze, he fiercely smashed it into the desk in front of him. Bang! With a loud bang, Liangkun's head immediately made an intimate contact with his desk. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Haoge, from now on, you will be my own brother. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Bastard, I'm here to reason with you. You're playing tricks with me. I dare not touch you, right? Chu Hao shouted loudly, and at that moment, the office door behind him was kicked open, and his big head appeared at the door. He had been guarding the door all along, and when he heard the commotion inside, he naturally rushed in immediately. However, he comes quickly and goes out quickly. At the moment of hearing the commotion behind him, Chu Hao immediately released Liangkun, turned around and kicked him with a straight kick. Get lost. Didn't you see me and Kun brother exchanging feelings? Suddenly, before he could figure out what had happened, Big Head flew out of the office and the next second, the office door was closed again. Outside the door, Liangkun's horse cubs were stunned by the scene of their big head being kicked out, and then they all pulled out their blades from under the table. Chu Hao's younger brothers who stayed outside also changed their faces. They quickly stood up one by one, took out their swing sticks from their arms, and threw them vigorously. The originally peaceful atmosphere suddenly became tense due to the commotion in the office. However, both sides did not immediately take action and continued to confront each other. After all, Liangkun had not given an order yet, and they dared not take action without authorization. Similarly, people in Changle are no exception. At this moment, in the office, Liangkun, who had regained his freedom, looked at Chu Hao with a cannibalistic gaze. If his gaze could kill, Chu Hao would have been cut by 1,000 knives by him at this moment. In contrast, Chu Hao was much more peaceful. He calmly tidied up the suit that had become wrinkled due to manual labor, then sat down calmly and looked at Liangkun arrogantly, saying, I'll give you two choices now. Either sit down and chat with me, or just take action. Don't expect your little brother outside. I've already locked the door and they can't rush in. So, you can guess how many moves you can hold under my hands. Upon hearing these words, Liangkun looked at Chu Hao fiercely and said, Bastard, you scare me. Even if I can't beat you, do you think you can walk out safely? I have hundreds of little brothers outside, they will chop you into meat sauce every minute. Well, you're right, but what does that have to do with you? When you're done, you won't feel like they're avenging you. You can still survive and continue to be carefree, right? Chu Hao spread out his hand and said with a smile on his face. Upon hearing these words, Liangkun's expression froze, clearly realizing this. Thinking of this, Liangkun quickly took a deep breath and quickly calmed down. He is just crazy, but not foolish. The current situation is clearly unfavorable to him, so he naturally knows how to choose. Speak up, what do you want to talk about? Liangkun looked coldly at Chu Hao, thinking to himself that after the conversation, he would have someone chop Chu Hao when he left. Although Chu Hao didn't say everything about his thoughts, he also guessed everything, but he didn't care. He believed that after the conversation, Liangkun would definitely treat him more affectionately than his own father. I'm actually here today to talk about a business deal with you. You're also a filmmaker, so you should know that videos bring more money. I know, and then, what do you want to talk to me about? Liangkun sneered. If we talk about this, he feels like there's nothing to talk about. Don't worry, I want to ask you, how long does it take for you to make a third-level film? If it's fast, it'll take 3 to 5 days, but a little slower than half a month. Liangkun was determined to quickly see Chu Hao off and then chopped him off, so he acted very cooperatively. The cost should also be quite high, and there may also be situations where the film is not good and cannot be sold. Chu Hao said with a smile on his face. But Liangkun gradually became impatient. What the hell are you going to say? Looking at Liangkun, who was somewhat irritable, Chu Hao didn't care about his attitude and continued, if we omit all the time and cost of filming, and then sell all the popular films, do you think they can become popular? Chu Hao smiled and said, as soon as these words were spoken, Liangkun, who was originally full of anger, suddenly froze. He is a curious person, yes, but he is also a wise curious person. Therefore, he keenly realized the meaning behind Chu Hao's words. Are you talking about piracy? That's right. Piracy only earns a few dollars. Liangkun sneered. In the 1980s, the golden age of the Xinjiang film industry was still at its beginning, and the influence of the Xinjiang series of films was not as great as that of later generations. It can be said that the rise of piracy is closely related to the prosperity of the Xinjiang film industry. Therefore, in this era, piracy is not very profitable. However, that is only now. In a few years, after the rise of the Xinjiang film industry, the entire Southeast Asia, and even Asia, will be swept by Hong Kong films. By then, piracy will not be making money, but picking up money with sacks. Of course, that's the future, and it's not enough to try to impress Liangkun with this. However, Chu Hao has a trump card. Piracy doesn't make much money in Xinjiang, but it doesn't necessarily happen in the north. Chu Hao smiled mysteriously. As soon as she said this, Liangkun was stunned and looked at Chu Hao with a surprised expression on her face, her eyes filled with shock. Bastard, you're crazy. If you want to go over there, don't drag me if you want to die. Seeing Liangkun's face full of fear, Chu Hao was not surprised. In this era, the mainland is simply demonized, and no one dares to go. This situation gradually improved from the late 1980s to the 1990s. But Chu Hao was clear that there had already been reform and opening up, and now he is looking for investors all over the world. If I were to invest there at this time, it would definitely be popular. In addition, the entertainment life there is almost a desert now. If I bring Xinjiang's films over at this time, it would be like driving a money printing machine to make money. Fortunately, you are still one of the people responsible for Hong Xing's words. You are so timid. Besides, if we cooperate, I won't let you go there. What are you afraid of? Think about how many people there are over there, and as far as I know, the market there is still a desert. At that time, as long as we transport the videotapes over, even if they are sold for only 1 yuan, it will still be a market worth billions of yuan. Not to mention the many, when the time comes, we will be divided into 3 to 500,000 each year, which will not be easy. Moreover, we can also open a video studio over there, watch it for 10 cents each time, receive 800 people a day, and most importantly, a batch of videos that can be played repeatedly to make money. Think about it, is this business profitable? Chu Hao used a language that was close to being bewitched. Liangkun's mind was already spinning rapidly at this moment, and his eyes, which were originally uninterested, were also getting brighter and brighter. Based on the population base over there, a video studio can receive 700 to 800 people a day and earn at least 10,000 yuan a month. This is just a video studio. The mainland is so big, it's not excessive to have 300 to 400 video studios. A video studio earns 1 or 2,000 yuan a month, 300 or 400 households, which means 4 or 5 million yuan in a month, and 50 or 60 million yuan in a year. Hush. As the saying goes, I don't know, but I was startled. Damn it, I haven't made such a profit from selling fans for a year. The most crucial thing is that this is legitimate business, which is the most crucial. No one will investigate, there is no need to hide a note, you can earn and spend money openly. In an instant, Liangkun's eyes turned red and he grabbed Chu Hao's hand. Brother Hao, from now on, you will be my own brother. Liangkun looked excited. As for the previous conflict, he had already set it aside. Compared to tens of millions, being beaten up is nothing. He can accept being beaten every day. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.